Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulonding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
It's a warm welcome to our studio here in Serekunda. This is Star TV News with me, Jacqueline Koli. In the headlines tonight, Fisheries Minister vouches suspension of PS Banja amid bribery scandal. Sports Minister debunks allegation of GFF funding national team expenditures. Minister of Information has given an update on the provision of certified seeds to farmers and other projects undertaken by government. Minister of Tourism expresses concern over the delay of copyright laws. The leader of the National Unity Party says fighting corruption will top off his party's agenda. On the international scene, in Argentina, malls and football return with restrictions. France Macron orders curfew to contain COVID. Nigeria protests continue even after government disbands police squad. Those were the headlines and now the news in detail. The Minister of Fisheries and Water Resources, James Frumo's Gomez, has confirmed on Wednesday that his permanent secretary, Dr. Bamba Banja, has been put on administrative suspension following his implication in a massive investigation report published by Malagan last week. More on this report. Dr. Banjan, who had served at the Fisheries Ministry for over 3 decades, was heard on audio negotiating an amount of $100,000 with officials of Chinese private fish meal company Golden Lead in an attempt to facilitate an out-of-court settlement. The company based in Gunjur violated the fishing regulatory rules amounting to illegal fishing. However, Dr. Banja has denied ever receiving Mr. Chen at his home to accept bribe from the company.
I've had this.
Listen to it.
This
listen,
is not true.
Listen to it.
This is not true.
No, but listen to
no,
it.
wait, please.
Listen to listen to it.
This is money that is being manipulated.
Doctor, listen
Look,
to it. No, listen to
you
it.
cannot. What I'm telling you, honestly, for us, our work is being based on policies. Oh, let me see.
Yes, I can confirm that Banja is on leave, said the minister. In the audio published by Malagan, the PS Banja claimed that the minister owes half while he will retain the other $50,000. But the minister denied the claim when confronted by Malagan's investigative journalist last week. Today, he said he is not affected by the report in any way. I am in no way affected by his suspicions. Investigations have started, the minister responded. Commenting on the impact of the story, Malagan's news editor Mustafa K. Dabo informed that the Office of the Inspector General of Police and the Ombudsman have already commenced probing the alleged corruption scandal at the Fisheries Ministry. It's a positive thing that the police and the Ombudsman have started looking into the alleged corruption at the Fisheries Ministry, said Dabo. He stressed the need for the police to broaden their investigations and focus on key elements of the number of people named in the report, including the Golden Lead Company itself. Those are key elements that cannot be missed in the police investigations because any objective investigation should conduct those elements and not just one individual because the individual is the permanent secretary. I think the investigation should be broad enough to capture all the elements in the story, he said. On Wednesday evening, Malagan wrote to its side. The police and ombudsman have contacted Malagan and we respectively declined their request to lead them to our sources. We have a covenant with our sources that we will under no circumstances reveal their identity. Our position is in line with the Gambia Press Union Code of Conduct for media practitioners. Besides, confidentiality of journalist sources is a press freedom right protected under international law. Jacqueline Kweli, reporting for Star TV News. The newly appointed Minister of Youth and Sport, Honorable Bakari K. Baji, dismissed the allegations spreading on social media and other group chats that the Gambia Football Federation provided funds for the national team's expenditures in and out the country. More on this report. Honorable Bakari Baji said it is inappropriate to say that the Gambia Football Federation funds the expenditures of the Gambia national team in and out of the country. He said, according to what he knows, it is the government that provides all expenditures of the team, which includes their tickets, accommodation, and other necessary funds. He said sometimes the government might ask the GFF to fund the team's expenditure if the budgeted amount is not available, which is later refunded to the Federation. He highlighted that the government owes the GFF no debt. The new minister was sworn in after replacing Hadrama Sidibe. Mr. Baji stressed that working under a government is a continuous work, not that every administration should bring a new plan, but rather one has to continue from where the other stopped. Baji added that what the government spends on the Ministry of Youth and Sport is not much, and added that the reason for that is unknown to him because people see things from different perspectives. On the domain of the difficulties of football in the Gambia, Honorable Baji said companies at the private sector need to come up and help the ministry in terms of sponsorship. He said, it is the responsibility of the ministry to ensure that all required developments of sports are met, but with regards to the players and sponsorships, the private sector should come up and help the ministry in those aspects. He said he does not know why the private sector is not helping in the area of sports, but his administration will do whatever it takes to ameliorate the situation. In doing that, he said all stakeholders will be called to fish out the difficulties around the sports sector and secondly, to present a plan to the private companies and the amount of fund it needs and also urges them to support those plans. He called on the private sector to look up to other sporting activities like volleyball, basketball and wrestling, but not only concentrate on football. It is left to the companies to support the ministry in sporting activities. What the ministry can only do is to write with their plans for support, he said. Jacqueline Colley, reporting for Star TV News. During the 11th session of the Interministerial Press Conference coordinated by Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure, the Minister of Information and Communication, Honorable Ibrahim Asila, updated journalists on the provision of certified seeds to farmers across the country and other projects undertaken by the government. Dado Chan tells us more.
The Minister of Agriculture has noted that crops in most parts of the Gambia will reach harvestable maturity, especially in regions that benefited from the distribution of certified seeds, with farmers expected to reap near bumper harvest. In another development, Minister Silla said the Department of Water Resources and National Assembly Matters is currently implementing 2 projects as parts of the efforts to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water. These projects include the Climate Smart Rural Wash Development project funded by African Development Bank Group to the tune of $40 million, and just ended Saudi Sahel project Phase 5 funded by the Saudi Fund for Development to the tune of $3.5 million. Both projects aim to provide access to safe and quality drinking water to the rural areas. On the health sector, the minister informed journalists that the World Bank Board of Executive Directors have approved a $30 million grant from the International Development Association to improve the quality and utilization of essential health services in the Gambia. In the long term, the project is expected to help reduce maternal and child mortality, therefore contributing to the improvement of Gambia's Human Capital Index. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Chan.
The Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture on Wednesday commented on the issue of the copyright laws which many young Gambian writers and artists have been anticipating for its actualizations. Binta Koli reports.
The Tourism Minister, Hamad N. Keba, revealed that those working in the music scene are doing their quota in national development, noting that his ministry is very concerned about those in the poetry and the writing industry. Honorable Bah urged the Director of National Council for Arts and Culture to be paying royalties to the writers, poets and the artists. Honorable Ba further urges the Director General of the Center of Arts and Culture to double his efforts in improving the support given to those in the artistic entities, despite the COVID-19 outbreak which has hindered most of the government's activities. If those in the artistic industry are supported as indicated by the tourism minister, then the artists will also have to double their efforts. For Star TV News, I am Binta Koli.
Speaking to journalists shortly after receiving his party's registration certificate from the Independent Electoral Commission, the leader of the National Unity Party, Usman Jame, said his party will launch a very comprehensive fight against corruption if it takes power. Yamundo Koka reports.
The party leader disclosed that they will declare a war that will include mandatory jailing of officials found guilty of corruption. He said the NUP government will wage a battle against corrupt officials because they are committed to fighting corruption, nepotism, and all other economic crimes through the establishment and empowerment of relevant institutions and strict enforcement to punitive anti-corruption laws, adding that they will not allow the situation where one who steals maybe $1,000 is jailed, while someone who steals hundreds of millions will go scot-free. We are going to make sure that anybody found liable, even if you are rich and able to pay all your fines, you will still have a mandatory jail sentence. This is a deterrent. One will pay a fine, but must go to jail. This is what progressive countries around the world do, he said. On the fisheries sector, Jammeh said, when his party is in power, he will swiftly address the issues facing the sector. These, he said, will include revisiting the fishing agreements the country signed with other countries. Jammeh furthered that they have seen now fishing trawlers are not satisfied with what they catch in the river. They are now fishing in the streams. The NUP government will not allow foreign fishing companies to fish in our streams. That will be left exclusively for artisanal Gambian fishermen, he said. Jammeh also disclosed his party plans to create jobs and other opportunities for Gambians, especially young people. For Star TV, I am Yamunda Okoka.
Those were the local stories. We will be back with international news after the short break. Stay tuned.
Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gosh, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jeja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulunding. We are also producers of Jeja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gosh, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gosh Group also provides the best security company, Gosh Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gosh Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gosh on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gosh Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.goshglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gosh.
Shopping malls and football, two of the fundamental elements of Argentina life, have returned with tight restrictions. The relaxation in rules comes even as the number of COVID-19 infections and deaths continue to rise. Al Jazeera's Daniel Stramella reports from Buenos Aires.
It was a tentative reopening, a limited number of shoppers, masks worn at all times, cinemas and restaurants still closed. It comes after weeks of pressure from business owners calling on the authority to relax the rules.
It was very hard because, depending on the shops, we've lost around 20 to 30% of the tenants and tens of thousands of jobs.
After a 7-month lockdown and with Mother's Day, one of the busiest shopping periods of the year, just around the corner, people were keen to leave their homes.
We are very excited, the kids too. We wanted to see how the reopening is going, what was going on with the people, and also to get out of the house a little bit. I think it's good that they're opening because many workers depend on the shopping center.
Argentina has one of the highest number of infections in the world, more than 900,000 and 25,000 deaths. They're reopening before it's totally safe to do so, but before these huge multi-million-dollar enterprises go under with massive job losses. The big question, though, still remains. What is the greater risk, the killer virus or further economic devastation? Domestic football is also back, the first division kicking off at the end of this month after a 7-month break. Stadiums will remain closed to fans, but struggling clubs hope action on the pitch will generate some income off it.
I think it was time to reopen the shopping malls as the stores are open. Everything has to begin to be more flexible.
Some students are returning to school. National flights and long-distance bus services are resuming, albeit like everything else, with restrictions. It's a slow return to normal activity, but with the pandemic still raging and a fully functioning society still some way off. Daniel Schweimner, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
President Emmanuel Macron has announced a curfew for Paris and 8 other cities to combat the rapid spread of COVID-19 in France. He has stopped short of introducing travel restrictions or a national lockdown, saying they will hit the economy too hard. Al Jazeera's Natasha Butler reports from Paris, France.
French President Emmanuel Macron said France was in the grip of a second wave of coronavirus. He urged people to be more responsible and announced a nighttime curfew for Paris and 8 other cities that could last until December.
If we stick to this curfew for 6 weeks, if we take collective responsibility for reducing our contacts, we think that we'll be able to progressively reopen at that stage.
The curfew adds to a raft of restrictions already in place in the country's big cities, where cases of new infections are rising rapidly. In the past couple of weeks, queues outside laboratories like this one in the city have been getting longer. And what Paris health officials say is that 1 in 5 tests is coming back positive. Soon after moving to Paris in September, these British students fell sick with coronavirus. They began having symptoms after attending university events and welcome parties.
They were social distance, we were wearing masks, but sometimes that doesn't stop it if you're in a crowded place. And we stopped going to our lectures as soon as we started getting very tired and fatigued.
Nearly half the students in their year were infected. For some, recovery has been slow.
I mean, I was careful before, but I don't want to get it again, or I don't know if we're immune, but no, I'm a lot more conscious of it now.
Macron hopes the curfew will help ease pressure on hospitals. In Paris, intensive care beds are near capacity. The problem, says this epidemiologist, is that the government is taking the wrong approach, relying on restrictive measures rather than widespread testing.
The solution would be to decide to test massively the population, and that can be done both using PCR tests with group testing, where you put in one tube the samples from 20 or 30 people, and also with the antigenic tests. So that's what's being done in the countries where the virus has been contained.
For some, the new restrictions will deal yet another blow to an already ailing economy. For others, they'll be welcomed as a sign that, after months of urging people to live with the virus, the president is hardening his tone. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera.
The Nigerian government decision to abolish a police squad implicated in extrajudicial killings and torture has failed to placate protesters. A new unit called SWAT was formed to replace the disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad, but the protesters are now saying they want to hold the police and government officials accountable. Al Jazeera's Ahmed Idris reports from Abuja, Nigeria.
Clashes on the streets of Abuja. A group of young men armed with clubs and other weapons arrive at busy intersection, already cut off by protesters. They set about smashing parked vehicles. Then they chased protesters against police brutality. But the tables were turned when protesters chased the attackers, who began to retreat. Not all of them got away. The running battles lasted more than half an hour. Watched by the police less than 200 meters away, protesters say the attackers were brought to the scene in 2 trucks.
The government must listen to us. We are peaceful protesters. We've not hurt anyone.
It's the demonstrators who turned around to help victims of their beating to parked ambulances. This woman's car was one of several badly damaged. The protest began peacefully in the morning as Nigerians of all ages pressed home their demand for accountability from government security forces. Nationwide rallies, which started last week against a notorious police unit implicated in extrajudicial killings and torture, succeeded in getting the government to abolish the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. But the announcement of replacement SWAT unit to fight violent crimes further angered protesters.
They should end SAS. We don't want him to dissolve it. We don't want him to form another name. They should end it. Enough is enough.
Now, how do the police deal with violent crimes like robbery, kidnappings and all that?
There are so many ways to deal with it. There are so many ways. It's not by killing people that criminality can be stopped in Nigeria. You can't kill everybody.
The latest protest disrupted traffic in businesses in parts of Abuja.
Demonstrators say police reform is just a part of their demands. They want to push further, to hold not only security agencies accountable, but to demand good governance from Nigeria's elected leaders.
In the country's most popular state, Lagos, protests were largely peaceful.
We have no reason to attack you because we have no reason to attack police. We have no reason to attack any protester. For whatever reason, we don't have.
But it's attacks such as these in Abuja, by what protesters say were paid thugs, that are raising particular concerns of instigating a new crisis in a country already dealing with several others, such as the coronavirus and Boko Haram. Ahmed Idris, Al Jazeera, Abuja.
And before we end the news, a quick recap of our main headlines. Fisheries Minister vouches suspension of PS Banja amid bribery scandal. Sports Minister debunks allegation of GFF funding national team expenditures. Minister of Information has given an update on the provision of certified seeds to farmers and other projects undertaken by government. Minister of Tourism expresses concern over the delay of copyright laws. The leader of the National Unity Party says fighting corruption will top off his party's agenda. On the international scene, in Argentina, malls and football return with restrictions. France Macron orders curfew to contain COVID. Nigeria protests continue even after government disbands police squad. That's all for this edition of the news. Do join us tomorrow for more news. Please stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs. Thanks for watching.